this episode of the IT Experts podcast, we help you sort out your stack with the 4 tools that every single MSP needs to manage their pipeline. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast, the only podcast to help MSPs scale to 1 million, and if already there, get to 5 and go faster. At the end of the day, isn't it all about building a business that works for you rather than you for it? I hope you enjoy the show. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast. And today we're going to help you sort out and systemize your stack by talking about the 4 tools every MSP needs to manage their pipeline with the amazing Ben Spector. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Mr. Luckett, thanks for having me.
How are you today?
Yeah, good, thank you. Suffering from a minor case of man flu. If anyone wonders why I sound a little congested.
We'll be easy on you today. Well, thanks ever so much for your time prepping up and also recording the show today. Now, Ben is the head of solutions for Zomentum and also an MSP mentor, and he helps out many of our clients actually sort out their stack and align things together. And today we're going to be picking his brains and helping to simplify some of the key tools that MSPs need in their growth journey, in making their lives better, in scaling their businesses, whatever the end goal is, making them more operationally efficient. So before we get cracking, Ben, for those who don't know who you are, do you want to just give us a quick intro on who you are, what you do, and who you help?
Sure. I mean, your intro covered off most of it, I guess. Currently wear 2 hats. One of them head of solutions at Zomentum. So I work with Zomentum's customers, but also the team at Zomentum to help them understand where Zomentum fits into the MSP's businesses and how it can benefit them. For those who don't know, Zomentum's it's a sales CRM, really. We're obviously going to be talking quite a bit today about the various sort of CRMs and how it all fits together. But yeah, so Zomentum helps you to get from the point at which a prospect put their hand in the air and said, I'm ready to have a conversation, all the way through to the point at which you've got contracts signed, the deal's won, deposits paid, and passed off to the next bit of the process. So that's first hat. Second hat, as you mentioned, I also work with a number of MSPs, helping them to line up what I call the revenue stack, which is the marketing tools flowing into the sales, flowing into the operations, and flowing into the finance at the end. And yeah, we're delighted to work with quite a number of your clients. Interesting, and I think it's pretty important to clarify, I'm not a sales coach, I'm not a business coach. And actually most of my clients work with sales coaches or sort of business mentors like yourselves, who give them that massive amount of knowledge and learning and understanding, but it's all at a much sort of higher level than where I work. And so they come away from those sessions with their business mentors with all this fantastic stuff that they know they need to implement. But then there's that big question mark of how do I actually map that learning into my business and make sure that the tools I have in the business are running the processes that my business coach has taught me to run. And there is a big translation gap there for a lot of MSPs.
Brilliant. And one thing you did forget to mention is your absolute passion for helping solve solutions and things, because you did used to run your own MSP, didn't you?
Yeah. So I anecdotally refer to myself as a recovering MSP. Because I'm convinced that you never truly recover from that level of trauma. So yeah, recovering MSP. I ran mine for about 10 or 11 years. I think like a lot of MSPs, it was entirely accidental. Started off helping people with IT and then became a bit of an IT consultant. And the projects all ended up with that long tail of support that never really went away, and gradually sort of transitioned that through being a break-fix IT support provider to finally landing on the MSP business model.
And I love the story around that. And if you want to check that story out, you can go and listen to episode 89 of the podcast, where Ben gave us our SOP super tips, which I think you went quite vulnerable on that, on how the whole MSP, as you say, recovering MSP journey affected you and everything. But I think it's really key to mention because you kind of know what a lot of these guys are going through and what's in their heads, which is why every time I talk to you, you're just so passionate and excited about solving this solution or simplifying everything. I think is one of your your superpowers. So yeah, today, look, let's get a few things straightened out, because when clients come and either work with ourselves or they're looking to make a change, I think, and be more efficient, be more profitable, and understand really the inner workings of their business. There's massive shiny ball syndrome in the channel, isn't there? With hey, there's a new product here. Hey, there's a new solution here. Hey, there's the new AI thing. Oh God, anybody mentioned Chat GPT yet? Not yet. But I mean, that's going to be amazing. Well, it is already amazing, so it doesn't need to be amazing. But using it properly is the key thing. How do MSPs get themselves in this, I'm going to call it a technical pickle, where they just end up with just so many different systems, and as we sort of say, the CRMs, the PSA, all these different things that probably most of them, or some of them, actually have functionalities of each other. Is it just shiny ball syndrome, or is it just looking for a quick fix in terms of solving an immediate problem? What's your experience and view on how sometimes MSPs can get in a bit of a multi-stack issue?
Yeah, so I think what happens is that these MSP owners are generally used to looking out for best in breed solutions for their end clients, and so quite rightly they're also looking for best in breed tools for within their own businesses, or the sensible ones are. I think it's very easy to forget to think about how to run your own business because you're focusing on your clients. But they're looking for best in class solutions, but they're not necessarily looking at how the tools are actually going to fit together, which is obviously the topic we're exploring today. There's a lot of PSAs out there. There are a lot of sales tools. There are a lot of accounting packages. And if you don't take the time to look beyond the tool itself, but actually how is it going to fit in with the tools adjacent to it, I think that's where it really starts to fall apart.
So it's kind of when people are looking at things in isolation, it's how we're going to connect them together, and we are going to help you connect them together today. So let's dive into what we've got here. What are the 4 key systems? And just explain that, and I mean this with the greatest of respect to everybody listening to this. We're going to explain what these systems, in our view, are for and what they should be doing. I think what some people buy them for and use them for is slightly different. So let's just go from the top, Ben. What are the 4 systems that we've got here, and then we can dive into each one.
Sure. So I think it's probably important first to introduce what I mean when I talk about the revenue stack. The revenue stack is about getting pounds or dollars from the very top of the funnel or pipeline right down to the bottom. So the top end, you've got when somebody downloads that first piece of content on your website and ends up in your CRM to be marketed to, all the way down to the bottom where you're issuing invoices and hopefully not, but possibly passing it off to debt collection. And everything that happens between those points, that is to me the revenue stack. And when I talk about pipeline, I think a lot of people think pipeline is just the marketing pipeline or the sales pipeline. Actually, to me, it's the entire customer life cycle. It's all the way from prospect to the top, right down to the invoicing at the bottom. And so if you go through that journey from the very top, you've got a set of marketing stages up at the top end of it. If you're used to using a marketing CRM like HubSpot, you might recognize the life cycle stages they have there, things like subscriber, which becomes a lead, which becomes marketing qualified, which becomes sales qualified, until you have an opportunity. And that's kind of where the marketing process ends. The marketing team or the marketing person's responsibility is to get leads onto the salesperson's desk. They're supposed to get them qualified opportunities onto the salesperson's desk. And so at that opportunity point, you then kind of enter the sales life cycle, and you go from having the opportunity through taking them through some kind of pre-sales assessment. What is the conversation about? The prospects put their hand in the air and said, I am ready to have a conversation. My wallet's out, I'm ready to have a conversation. What is the conversation? What should the proposal look like? What problems is that prospect trying to solve? It's no good just sending out a quote, a list of line items with prices, and expecting the prospect to buy off that basis. You need to be sending a compelling proposal that actually answers the problems that prospect is facing. Once we've then understood what it is, we've done our pre-sales assessment, we then get onto that quoting and proposal stage. There's then probably going to be some kind of negotiation. Once it's all been negotiated and we've agreed the pricing and the terms, we've got a one deal. By one deal, we're probably talking we've got e-signatures on the contract, we've hopefully got deposits paid. I always say contracts are great, but cash in the bank is better.
Yeah.
And that's when we get to our one opportunity. And that's all happened during the sales cycle. Once we've got to one opportunity, it's then going to be handed off to some kind of operational team. Whether that's just one technician that then deals with the project implementation and everything that comes around it, or whether you've got a whole onboarding team. You're going to have to go through some kind of planning process, the handover from sales into operations. What does that planning process look like? We need to take the client through the onboarding, any projects that were part of the proposal to bring them up to your MSP's definition of good. There's going to be some project time, some management. We're then going to probably hand them off to support, because once all the implementation's done, then it should be just a case of keeping them ticking. We then, get towards the billing phase. Hopefully all of this is happening in your PSA during the operational stage. We're creating the invoices. Those invoices are then being passed off to your accounting tool, which does the final financial accounting at the end. So, if you look at that entire life cycle or pipeline, there are a lot of different teams involved. There are a lot of different functions. And that's what I mean when I refer to the revenue stack, because we've just had to move money from the very first point of contact all the way down to the financial sort of accounting and reconciliation down at the end.
So we got marketing CRM at the top. We then took, and correct me if I'm wrong in the terminology, marketing CRM, sales CRM, the PSA, and then the accounting tool.
Yeah. So we've been through the stages, and those stages are all quite hypothetical. In bigger businesses, you may have far more granular stages. In smaller businesses, they may be far simpler. In my MSP, we were quite a small business. We wouldn't really have distinguished between marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads. As soon as we got to a lead, salesperson would get excited and think, get on the phone and try and close the deal. But in a big business, the responsibility differences between marketing qualified and sales qualified might be very different. So you've got those hypothetical stages through the business, and I would map those stages to 4 key tools, which should be lined up really sequentially and with really clear integration cutover points between them. So those first stages, the marketing stages, going from subscriber through lead, marketing qualified, getting them sales qualified till we have an opportunity, which means someone's put their hand in the air and said, I'm ready to have a conversation. That should all be happening in your marketing CRM. For me, if I was starting a new MSP on Monday, believe me, I wouldn't, because that's a miserable journey and I've done it before. If I was starting a new MSP on Monday, I'd have HubSpot Marketing Hub to do that lead generation, the prospecting, and to give my business development people or my marketing team the best in breed tool to be able to generate leads. Once we get to that opportunity stage, and I know I keep saying it, prospects put their hand in the air and said, I'm ready to have a conversation. It's just such an easy way to define what is an opportunity. That's your cutover point to the sales CRM. And it's so important that marketing CRM is going to be integrated with the sales CRM. So in the sales CRM, we're going to be taking them from opportunity through doing that pre-sales assessment to understand the need, getting them quoted, getting the deal over the line. Again, if I was starting an MSP on Monday, I'd be using Zomentum Grow for that. Crucially, Zomentum has the integration with HubSpot. So we're going to be passing certain information back up the chain towards HubSpot. If for HubSpot to really be able to report on marketing ROI, it needs to know certain information about the deal. It needs to know the deal value. It needs to know the stage. It needs to know how quickly or slowly things progressed through those stages. Yeah. And it needs to know the close date. So while you're building your quote or proposal in Zomentum, that key information is being passed back up to HubSpot. So HubSpot can tell you this marketing campaign, which cost this much to run, resulted in these new contacts, which generated these new opportunities, which closed this much revenue. And that is your full chain of custody reporting for marketing ROI.
And I'm absolutely busting to jump in here, because this is when people no, and it's the right time, because this is the bit when people go, how do I measure my marketing? Well, you measure your marketing by how many people are putting their hands up. There's so many people who look at top of funnel activities that we see, and they're putting stuff on LinkedIn, and it's kind of all a bit generic, and it's kind of not leading them down this funnel, down the sales funnel. That it is, as we said at the top, it's really important that you understand what this looks at and why, and what you're going to do to travel them through it. But so many people go, yeah, but I've spent a couple of grand a month and I don't really know if it's working or not. Well, how many people are putting their hand up? And this is exactly what you're just saying here, is you've got a system that can tell you how many people are putting their hand up. And when Zomentum, and I think just for a bit of disclosure here, that there are other sales CRMs and everything available. This isn't sponsored by HubSpot or Zomentum, but you just know, Ben, from the heart of your hearts, these tools just work bloody well. So why should we be using anything else or referring to anything else? But that feedback information on, did this work? What's the size of it? Where is it in the funnel? And everything like that is, this is how you overcome the ROI question on, does my marketing work? How do I know what I'm going to get? And if you're going to a marketing agency or anyone to help, activate that area, the only measure needs to be with your marketing is how many people are putting their hands up and saying, hey, I need to have a conversation with you. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yeah. And when you're using a tool like HubSpot, and the biggest challenge I had with implementing HubSpot in my MSP in about 2016, 2017-ish was content generation. You need, excuse my French, a shitload of content to run nurturing campaigns, and content is expensive, or it used to be expensive. The big difference now is you've got things like the Tech Tribe, $49 a month, puts out a monthly marketing pack. Now, it may be basic, it may be generic, but it's $49 a month. To create that amount of content, I was probably spending $3,000 or $4,000 a month equivalent to generate all the blog articles, all the nurture email campaigns, all the social posts, everything that goes with it. You've got Paul Green. I can't remember what his program's called, but he's got that's the one. He's got a similar pre-built content pack that goes out each month to perform a similar function. Problem is, I think a lot of people buying those content packs then don't necessarily have the tool to be able to actually deliver it in an automated, scalable, measurable way.
Right. Okay. So they're sitting there with all these images, blogs, memes, posts, and then they're just like going,
if they remember to log into Facebook that day, they're posting, they're posting it on Facebook or they're posting it on LinkedIn, but there's no consistency to it. I fear we might be going down a sort of marketing bashing.
No, we're not, because I think
it wasn't the plan.
No, but I think this is really important, because it's at the top of the conversation, isn't it? And so many people get stuck with that. And by having that good marketing CRM at the top, and I think we've covered off some really good points. You got to remember, Ben, on the podcast, we talk about the same subjects generally about every 6 or 8 months. And when people go, oh, I remember that. Yeah, so maybe I should do that now. Repetition is the wonderful way to learn. So there's no danger in us repeating anything.
So, that first bit, the marketing, we've got down to the point at which someone's put their hand in the air, ready to have a conversation. We then move into a platform like Zomentum. It's integrated with HubSpot. You're going to create your quotes and proposals and manage the sales life cycle in Zomentum. HubSpot, sure, it has its own sales hub. You could use HubSpot as the sales CRM as well. Problem is, it's never going to be verticalized for an MSP. It's never going to have those kind of pre-sales assessment capabilities that are tailored for an MSP. It's never going to have those longer proposal capabilities. It's never going to have integrations with your distributors, your hardware and SaaS distributors for stock and pricing. And it's never going to have integrations directly to most of the PSAs, or not to the level we need. So Zomentum, therefore, is effectively the glue between marketing at the top and the PSA that comes after it. So you're building your quote or proposal in Zomentum. We're passing those deal values back up to HubSpot, so HubSpot can report on the marketing. We're then passing forward down to the PSA the quote line items, the technical detail for the quotes that's needed in the PSA to be able to go through the onward processes, converting that opportunity into projects or tickets and converting the charges into billing items and doing the invoicing. There's a whole load of onward processes that need to be accomplished. And so Zomentum's passing back to HubSpot for the marketing. It's passing forwards to the PSA for all of the onward technical processes. So then we're in our PSA. My world was Autotask. If I was starting a new MSP on Monday, it'll probably be Autotask, primarily because it's familiar.
Yeah.
There are some really very good looking up and coming ones without wanting to get too much shiny ball syndrome. Platforms like Halo are looking really, really interesting. But for me, let's say it was Autotask. My cut over to Autotask is where the contract is signed, the deal is won. I'm then going to go into Autotask, run my one opportunity wizard. It's going to kick off all of those onward processes, the billing processes, the procurement processes, the project processes. Going to run through all of those in the PSA. But then when you get to the end of the PSA journey, all the PSAs will create the invoices. They'll pull together your labor time, your project milestones, your recurring services, your expenses, if they're applicable, the mileage used by the technician to do the project. It's going to pull together all of those strands and it's going to generate a single point of invoice for that customer. But none of the PSAs file your taxes, run your payroll. None of them handle the vendor invoicing that's coming in. So, they don't know about your electricity bills and your car payments and your rent and all of that. So then you need to drop into an accounting solution at the end, which ties together the finances, reports to HMRC or IRS, whatever the Americans call it, and does that final financial accounting. And, and if we look at how those tools have been lined up, therefore, could the PSA do the accounting's job? No. Could the PSA do some of the sales CRM's job? Well, some of them have tried it, but they're all profoundly terrible at managing opportunities. Autotask's approach to managing opportunities looks more like an Excel spreadsheet. Even some of the more, the jumpy, the new MSPs, the new PSAs, even they haven't quite mastered opportunity management. It's kind of a case of stay in lane. And that's really where the opportunity for Zomentum has been, which is, well, none of the PSAs solve the problem. So downstream, we can't pull upstream. None of the marketing CRM solve the problem. HubSpot, ActiveCampaign, Keep, Infusionsoft, Go High Level. None of them solve sales for an MSP. They're all lead gen tools, really.
Yeah.
So you've got marketing, fine. You've got the PSAs, fine. But you still have this chasm down the middle, which is the sales process. And the last thing I would say on that is, if you as an MSP think that a legacy traditional quoting tool is all you need, you couldn't be more wrong. While I fully understand that creating a quote is an important part of the sales process, I hope after listening to this, you'll understand why actually it is a minuscule part of the sales process. So, if you've got HubSpot for your marketing or ActiveCampaign or whatever, and one of the legacy quoting tools that literally just creates a templated quote, sends it to the customer, gets it signed and pushes it into the PSA, we've talked about the need to do the assessment, create those compelling proposals. And, there is so much more to the sales process. And I hope you get that now.
Ben, have you ever heard any MSP tell you that they're really busy and they work long hours?
Oh, everyone.
So just absorbing what you're saying through here, by connecting this all together, and we're not talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds a month. We're talking about an investment in the automation and the systemization and the efficiency of your business running opportunities through. This just screams to me like this could just save the average either MSP owner or marketing or salespeople a bucket load of time because it's just simplifying the process. How is that true? Is that what you're seeing?
I think there's two elements to defining the value here. One of them is time, but in a way that's a smaller one. The other one is the results. If you look at the cost of putting together a stack like this, let's say you are talking £1,000 a month.
Yeah.
That's £12,000 a year. What is a typical opportunity worth to your business in profit? The average MSP deal has got to be worth about £12,000 a year.
Yeah.
Now, if in each year you can close just one additional deal, which is hardly a stretch, if you can close one additional deal each year, you break even. And how do you close one additional deal? You're properly nurturing your prospects. You're putting together compelling proposals. You're effectively managing your project and delivering success. And you're collecting the invoices correctly at the end. And I would challenge anyone to look at that process and look at that stack and say, well, there's no way that's going to help me close one more deal a year. Realistically, it's going to be a couple of deals a month.
Well, I'll tell you now straight away, the results that our clients are getting, and we just recently did a survey on the stack of our clients, and the amount of them that are using Zomentum is amazing. And the reason that they use it is because it just bloody works, and it just helps them. It actually helps them close more business rather than just, one of them just explained it to us as like saying, rather than just sending an email and just waiting for it to hope, what's gone out, whether they've read it, whether they've opened it, how many times they've opened it, they can either upsell or downsell themselves from it. You can chase them forwards, and it takes a lot of the, oh, excuse me, sir, can I have some money conversation out of the whole sales process, doesn't it? And makes it a better experience, not only for a more professional experience for the MSP, and also, for the client as well.
Yeah, I don't want to pretend to know what the average number of touch points needed to close a deal are, but I've heard what I do know is it's a lot.
It used to be 9, and I think now it's possibly 20. I think it's possibly 20 by the time that and counting touch points is really, really important because, it could be sending something in the post. It could be sending a testimonial video. It could be following up the voicemail with a text message, with a phone call, with an email. That's 6 touch points I've just mentioned there. And it's just all about staying connected in that sale, isn't it? And making sure that you've got that in the right place.
Yeah, there's some really interesting data. If you're pulling that kind of data out of these tools, it's really interesting because if you know that your average deal takes 14 touch points to close,
yeah,
you've got a deal that isn't yet closed and it's only had 8 touch points. Well, what do you think's needed? Another 6 touch points. And it gives you that kind of
and content as well at the top of the funnel. The videos, the blogs, the webinars, the learning lunches, the whatever it might be, they're all touch points. So once you've got halfway down the sales funnel, if you're finding it hard to close people, then you might not have educated them properly, because this is just an education process. Is sales. It's, you've got a problem, I'm going to educate you in what we do. If we've got a good match, we're going to do some business. But at the top of the funnel, in that marketing area, it's so important that, whether you're using any of the content, and if you do use some of the standard content, I would just highly recommend you just tweak it in your own language, and it just becomes twice as powerful as Paul and Nigel would have expected in any of those things. So Ben, look, just if obviously MSPs have been listening to this today and they're thinking, great, I need this I've just got so many issues kind of in this area, or I don't know whether my stack's right, or what efficiencies have I got. What's your kind of advice on how to get started and take some action after listening to the podcast today?
Sure. Well, we've covered quite a lot of different topics across various different tools.
We have.
So rather than trying to point people to all the resources individually, I happen to have a blog article on my website that covers off most of this revenue stack concept in quite a lot of detail. It also has links to the various platforms, tools, resources we've discussed. So if you go to benspector.uk, I guess you'll probably put it in the show notes. Make it easier. Yeah, there's a blog article there titled Revenue Stack, the 4 tools every MSP needs to manage their pipeline. If you are wanting to have a look specifically at Zomentum, obviously Zomentum.com, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm usually quite easy to find. If you need some of that consulting help, again, benspector.uk, you can get in touch with me there.
Ben, absolutely brilliant. Thanks ever so much for your time today. As usual, a massive fire hose, but I would just recommend. I've written a bucket load of notes, and I'm the one doing the podcast. So please go back, listen to it again, look at your notes, take your notes, see which areas you're getting some pinch points in, which areas you've got that you want to improve that are potentially causing you any pain. Reach out to either myself or Ben. We're more than happy to help and point you in the right direction. And thanks again, Ben, for your time. Hope you feel better soon. And good luck with everything that's going on for you this year, mate.
Thanks very much, Ian. Cheers.
Cheers, Ben. So I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, I'd love it if you could leave a rating and review on your favourite podcast platform. If you want to learn more about how to take your MSP to 1 million, or if you're already there, go faster, then come and join Stuart Warwick and myself in the Scale with Confidence Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. You go and enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.